I want you to close your eyes and just picture a scene for a second. It's a campsite.
Okay.
It's tucked deep in the woods. At a glance, it's idyllic. It's Labor Day weekend. There's a carton of milk sitting right there on a picnic table.
Just sitting out.
Yeah, sitting out. There's a plastic dishpan filled with water sitting there like someone was just about to scrub the morning plates. A pack of cigarettes is lying open, ready to be smoked.
Sounds normal so far.
Right, but then you step closer. The water in that pan isn't just cool, it's stone cold.
Mhm.
That milk has been sitting out in the late summer heat for hours, maybe days, and it's curdling in the carton.
Oh, no.
And the most unsettling part, lying right there on the rough ground, completely out in the open, is a man's wallet and an expensive wristwatch.
It's a tableau that just feels completely wrong.
Exactly.
I mean, it's not a scene of chaos or a struggle. It's a scene of interruption. It's like someone hit the pause button on a family vacation and then simply deleted the people.
That is the perfect way to put it. It's frozen in time. And that image, specifically the milk on the table, is the entry point for what I consider one of the most haunting mysteries the Pacific Northwest has ever produced.
It really is.
We are doing a deep dive into the Cowden family massacre today, and I want to be clear with you, this isn't just a basic whodunit. This is a story about a closed-room mystery that somehow happened in the wide-open wilderness.
It's a case that has hung a really dark cloud over the Siskiyou Mountains for 50 years now. We're talking about an entire family. Richard, Belinda, 5-year-old David, and 5-month-old Melissa.
A baby.
Yeah, a baby. They vanished without a trace in 1974. And as we go through the source material today, what really strikes me is how the evidence points so clearly in one direction, yet the justice system just couldn't close the loop.
It's the ultimate forensic frustration. You have this crime scene that looks like the Mary Celeste, you have a manhunt that used some surprisingly high-tech gear for the 70s, and you have a prime suspect who is, well, let's just say he's the stuff of nightmares. But before we get to the horror of it all, we really have to understand the geography here. We're in Copper, Oregon.
Right, the Siskiyou Mountains. And for anyone who hasn't been there, this isn't a manicured state park with paved trails. This is rugged, dense terrain, steep canyons, heavy timber, underbrush that can hide anything.
It's beautiful, but dangerous.
It's unforgiving. And the thing is, the Cowdens weren't even supposed to be there.
This is the part of the research that always gets me, the sliding doors moment. Fate really played a cruel hand here.
It did. Richard Cowden was 28, a logging truck driver, hard-working guy. He had actually planned to spend that Labor Day weekend hauling gravel for their driveway back in White City.
He wanted to get chores done.
Exactly. But his truck broke down.
So the work is canceled. And instead of sulking about it, they make a spontaneous decision. Let's go camping.
Yeah.
If that transmission hadn't blown or whatever mechanical failure it was, they would have been safe at home.
Precisely. It was a last-minute pivot. So they load up their 1956 Ford pickup, they grab their Basset Hound Troopy, and they head to a spot near Carberry Creek that they'd been to before.
Familiar territory.
Right. They arrived on Friday, August 30th, and by all accounts, the first couple of days were standard family fun.
The timeline is incredibly tight here, which makes the disappearance even weirder to me. We know they were alive and well on Sunday morning, September 1st.
Yes.
Richard and his son David were seen at the Copper General Store around 9:00 a.m. That's where they bought the milk.
That milk is the timestamp. They buy it, they drive back to camp, and presumably they sit down for breakfast or lunch. That is the last confirmed sighting of the Cowden family.
And the alarm gets raised fast. This wasn't one of those cases where people drifted apart and nobody noticed for weeks.
No, Belinda's mother lived less than a mile away.
And they were supposed to go to her house for dinner that night.
Which, when you have a 5-month-old baby, you don't just blow off dinner plans with family. You stick to a routine.
You definitely do.
So when they didn't show up, Belinda's mom got that pit in her stomach immediately. She drove to the campsite that evening.
Let's really break down what she found, because this is where the investigation begins, even if the police weren't there yet. She finds the truck. It's parked. Was it locked?
No, that's the thing. The keys were right on the picnic table. Belinda's purse was on the table, too.
Wow.
Now, I don't care how safe you think a campground is. A mother does not leave her purse and her diaper bag behind if she's going for a walk with an infant.
And the camp stove was assembled. It's these little domestic details that make it so creepy. It suggests they were in camp mode, not packing up mode.
Exactly. Yeah. And then you have the items on the ground, Richard's wallet and his expensive watch. This is crucial for profiling the crime.
Right, because of the robbery aspect.
Yeah. If this was a robbery, those are the first things to go. You take the cash, you take the watch, you steal the truck, but everything of value was left behind.
Which implies the motive was purely the people.
Or that the perpetrator was interrupted, or simply didn't care about money at all. The police later described the scene as spooky.
Spooky is a good word for it.
One trooper specifically noted that the milk carton had been opened and set down, implying they were mid-routine when snap. Something happened.
The only things missing were their bathing suits.
Which leads to the logical theory. It's a hot day, they put on their suits, they leave the valuables at the site because they're just going down to the creek for a dip.
Makes sense.
But they never came back up.
So Belinda's mom finds this silent, frozen campsite. She searches for an hour, panic sets in, and she calls the police. Now, looking at the police reports from 1974, there seems to be a bit of a lag in the response.
Unfortunately, yes. Lieutenant Mark Kizar, who led the investigation, admitted later that the search was delayed maybe a day.
A whole day.
You have to remember the mindset of 1974 rural Oregon. Law enforcement's first thought isn't mass abduction. Their first thought is maybe they went for a hike and got turned around.
Or maybe they packed up in a rush and left a mess.
Exactly. But once they realized the family wasn't coming back, they threw everything at it.
I was reading about the scale of this search. It wasn't just a few guys with flashlights.
It was massive.
Yeah.
One of the biggest in Oregon history. You had the National Guard, Explorer Scouts, the Forest Service. They were combing 25 miles of roads and trails.
And you mentioned the tech earlier. They actually brought in aircraft with thermal imaging.
That stood out to me too. Thermal imaging in '74. I assumed it wasn't exactly the Predator drone footage we see today. Far from it. It was primitive, it could detect heat, but in a dense forest with a heavy canopy in late summer. The ground retains heat, the trees block the sensors, it was a needle in a haystack situation, and the technology just wasn't mature enough to see through that terrain.
But they did find one family member, Droopy.
The basset hound. This is the detail that breaks your heart. In the early hours of September 2nd, Droopy was found scratching at the door of the Copper General store.
The last place they had been.
Exactly. The dog made it back to the store. But the family didn't. And that's when the reality set in for the community. Richard's sister wrote this letter to the local paper that is just gut-wrenching.
What did it say?
She asked hunters to look for freshly turned piles of earth.
God, that's when you know hope is gone. When you're asking people to look for graves instead of people.
They knew. The family knew this wasn't a lost-in-the-woods scenario. There was even public petition to get the FBI involved.
But they were rejected, right?
Yes. The FBI rejected it because there was no evidence of kidnapping or crossing state lines at that point.
Now, we have to talk about the context of the era again, because when people hear Pacific Northwest 1974, missing young women or people, one name usually pops up: Ted Bundy.
It's the elephant in the room. At this exact time, young women were vanishing across Washington and Oregon. The police were under immense pressure to connect the Cowdens to that pattern.
They wanted a neat bow on it.
They desperately wanted it to be part of the Bundy spree because then, at least, they had a suspect.
But it was a square peg in a round hole, wasn't it?
Completely. Bundy's MO was very specific. Young women, usually targeted when they were alone or isolated. He wasn't known for taking on an entire family unit, especially one with a fit 28-year-old male logger.
So it was a red herring.
It consumed resources and attention, but it ultimately led nowhere.
So the search winds down, the winter sets in, the mountains get covered in snow, and the case goes cold for 7 months, until April 1975.
April 12th. 2 gold prospectors are hiking near Carberry Creek, but they're miles away from the campsite. 7 miles to be exact, and the terrain there is incredibly steep.
And this is where the story shifts from a mystery to a horror movie. What the prospectors found, it defies logic.
They found Richard Cowden first. His body was found tied to a tree on a steep hillside.
Just Richard.
Just Richard.
Yeah.
And this is the forensic anomaly I mentioned at the start. Nearby, there was a small cave. The entrance had been crammed shut with rocks.
Oh, no.
Inside that cave were the remains of Belinda, little David, and the baby, Melissa.
The separation of the father from the rest of the family, that feels significant. Before we even talk about suspects, what does that tell you about the killer?
It tells us a lot. It tells us this person needed control. Separating the adult male, who is the biggest physical threat, is a tactical move. You incapacitate him first, tie him up, maybe make him watch.
It's terrifying.
It suggests a level of sadism.
Yeah.
It wasn't a quick robbery gone wrong where everyone gets shot in a panic. This was methodical.
And the autopsy reports were brutal.
Extremely. Belinda and 5-year-old David were shot with a .22 caliber weapon. But the baby, Melissa, died from severe head trauma.
It takes a specific kind of monster to do that to an infant.
It does. And Richard was too decomposed to determine the exact cause of death, but he was still tied to that tree. They believe he died right there where he was found.
Now, early on, there was a whisper campaign that maybe Richard was a family annihilator, that maybe he snapped, killed them, and then killed himself.
But the scene completely disproves that.
Because he was tied up.
100%. And crucially, no gun was found. If he had done it and committed suicide, the gun would be lying next to him. It wasn't.
Right. So we have a killer who is local enough to know about this obscure cave, because you don't just stumble upon a cave like that in the Siskiyous, and who is comfortable with a .22 caliber weapon.
Right. And that brings us to the name that has haunted this case for decades. Dwayne Lee Little.
I looked into his background, and it is terrifying that he was even walking the streets.
It really is. Dwayne Lee Little was 25 years old in 1974. He grew up in the area. But get this, he had been paroled from the Oregon State Penitentiary in May 1974.
Just 3 months before the Cowdens vanished.
Just 3 months.
And what was he in for?
The rape and murder of a 15-year-old girl named Orla Faye Fitz. He committed that crime in 1964 when he was a teenager.
So he's a convicted murderer, out on parole, living in the exact area.
And authorities confirmed he was in Copper, Oregon that specific Labor Day weekend. But the circumstantial evidence gets even tighter. You mentioned the cave earlier.
Right, the local knowledge needed to find it.
During the initial search for the family, a volunteer from Grants Pass told police he had checked a specific cave and found it empty. Later, when the bodies were found in that cave, police asked him to show them where he had looked.
Don't tell me.
He took them to the exact spot.
Meaning he knew it was there, and whoever put the bodies there had to know it too.
And the suspicion is that Dwayne Lee Little knew it was there. But there's one story that really chills me to the bone. It involves a family from Los Angeles.
Oh, this one kept me up last night. The LA family account.
So this family from LA was visiting the area that same weekend. They told police they were parked near the Cowden campsite. They saw a pickup truck pull up nearby. Inside were 2 men and a woman.
And the interaction wasn't friendly.
No. The LA family said the people in the truck just stared at them. They said they acted like they were waiting for us to leave.
Just staring them down.
The vibe was so menacing, so off, that the father of the LA family trusted his gut. He said, "We're leaving." They packed up and drove away.
And the speculation is that those people in the truck were Dwayne Lee Little and his parents.
That's the theory. The truck matched the description of the Little family vehicle. And there's a piece of physical evidence that backs this up, a guest book. A local miner claimed that Dwayne and his parents signed a guest book at a nearby cabin on September 2nd.
Wait, his parents? You're suggesting his parents might have been accomplices?
It's the wildest part of the theory. A family killing a family. Or maybe parents covering for a son they knew was dangerous. The LA family saw an older couple and a younger man. The optics line up. But the Littles denied everything.
There was also a cellmate who claimed Little confessed later on, wasn't there?
Yes, but jailhouse confessions are notoriously tricky to use in court.
Okay, so we have a guy with a murder conviction who is in the area, whose truck matches the description, who has a history of brutal violence, and I read this in the files. His girlfriend later said he owned a .22 caliber gun.
She claims she saw him with a .22 around the festive season, Christmas of 1974. The same caliber used to kill Belinda and David.
So why, for the love of God, was he never charged? This sounds like a slam dunk compared to some cases.
To us, looking back, it does. But you have to put yourself in the shoes of a district attorney in 1975. Everything we just listed, it's all circumstantial.
They didn't have the gun.
They never found the actual murder weapon to run ballistics. They didn't have DNA technology to test the ropes on Richard or the clothing. Dwayne Lee Little wasn't talking.
He lawyered up.
He just refused to cooperate. He wouldn't speak about the crimes. And in the American legal system, you need proof beyond a reasonable doubt.
Right.
Without a confession or physical evidence linking him directly to the bodies, a good defense attorney would have torn that case apart. They would have argued lots of people had .22s, lots of people drive trucks. You can't prove he was at that cave.
It's the difference between we know he did it and we can prove he did it in a court of law.
Exactly. Lieutenant Kizar was quoted saying, "The whole nature of the thing smacks of a weirdo." He felt they had their man, but they just couldn't cross the legal finish line.
And Little didn't stop, did he?
No. And this is where the system really failed. His parole was revoked in January 1975. But then he was paroled again in 1977.
Unbelievable.
Almost immediately after getting out the second time, he attacked a pregnant woman named Margie Hunter. Her car had broken down. He beat her and sexually assaulted her.
That is horrific.
Thankfully, she survived and she testified.
Wow.
That finally put him away for 3 consecutive life terms.
But never for the Cowdens.
Never for the Cowdens. He remains the prime suspect, but officially, the case is unsolved.
The tragedy of this case isn't just the murders themselves, it's the ripple effect it had. I read about Richard's father.
Yeah. A few months after the bodies were found, Richard's father committed suicide.
That's just awful.
The grief was just too much, and I want to be very clear here. He was investigated and completely cleared. He wasn't involved. He was just a father who lost his son, his daughter-in-law, and his grandbabies all at once and couldn't live with the pain.
It destroyed the entire family tree in one weekend.
It really did.
You know, as we wrap this deep dive up, I can't stop thinking about that family from Los Angeles, the ones who saw the truck and got that bad feeling.
It's the most haunting what-if of the whole story.
They listened to that little voice in their head that said, "Run!" And they lived. 5 minutes later, the Cowdens probably pulled up to that exact same spot. It makes you realize how terrifyingly random survival can be.
Completely random.
It's not about being smart or strong or prepared. Sometimes it's just about timing.
It really forces you to look at your own life and wonder how many times you might have narrowly missed something terrible just because you decided to leave a place 5 minutes early or because you got a weird vibe.
That is a thought that is going to keep me awake tonight.
Yeah.
I want you to think about that LA family. If they hadn't trusted their gut, this might have been a story about two families.
It easily could have been.
This case is a brutal reminder that the wilderness is indifferent, and sometimes the justice system is too. There is so much more to this if you dig into the archives, but the image of that milk on the picnic table, curdling in the sun, that's the one that stays with you.
It's a perfect symbol of a life interrupted, and a dark reminder that some questions, tragically, just never get answered.
Trust your instincts out there, and we'll see you on the next deep dive.